In the midnight glow where the stars align, we lose ourselves in the rhythm divine. Underneath the sky painted with dreams we're chasing.
Hello and welcome to another episode. I am Mari,
And I'm Jody.
and today we are back into our planetary deep dive series. And since it is Leo season, we are going to do a deep dive on the sun. So I'm just going to jump right in.
Yeah.
When someone asks you, what's your sign? What they're really asking is, what is your sun sign? And most people actually do know that answer, even if they don't know much about astrology. And we have what is called sun sign astrology to thank for that. The daily horoscope you used to see printed in the newspaper, or I'm dating myself by saying newspaper, wherever you found your horoscope, maybe it was online, like it mailed to you daily.
I'll date myself even more because when I was younger, they had these little horoscope scrolls that you could get
What?
at the gas stations. Yeah. And I used to love to get the little Gemini scroll.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's too cute. That I have
That
never
really
seen.
ages me.
That I have never seen, but I love it. Wherever it is that you found your horoscope, that is all based on sun sign astrology. And honestly, I think the sun is one of the most misunderstood planets in astrology, not at all because it's complicated, but because it's actually so familiar to society. And yet it's taken out of the context of the chart as a whole and treated as if it's your entire personality, which sun sign astrology we have to thank for kind of keeping astrology in the minds and hearts of humanity. It's at
Mhm.
least kept it in the mind of society, but it also in ways does a disservice, I think, to what astrology truly is. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So,
Because not
uh,
all Aries are going to be alike, and not all Gemini, and not all Sagittarius.
precisely. Yeah, things change drastically, even the house that your sun is in, let alone all of the
Right.
other aspects to that sun and all of the other planets and those pieces of who you are and their aspects and houses. If you've been following along with us for a while, you understand our know astrology, you understand the depth and intricacy that astrology actually is when it comes to you and your own natal chart. So, we are going to take you deeper into what the sun actually represents in astrology, in your chart, and in your life. But before we jump into all of that, let's start with the basics of the sun's movement, or technically our movement around the sun, because our
Yeah.
geocentric perspective, we perceive the sun as if it were moving through the signs as the year passes. So we'll just use that verbiage here as the sun moves through these signs, right? But of course, we are moving around the sun. The sun's movement is incredibly steady, moving 1 degree each day through the zodiac, spending about 30 days in each sign and completing the full journey through all 12 signs in approximately 365 days, which is the cycle that gives us our calendar year. And we say approximately because the actual physical time it takes the Earth to orbit the sun is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds, which is why we have leap years that contain that extra day. And I just had to throw that in there to be technically correct. Because of the consistent rhythm of moving 1 degree per day through the zodiac, the sun changes signs about once per month. And we actually did a great episode this past December called Your Year in 12 Chapters, Tracking the Sun Through Your Birth Chart. It's episode 15, which is a really great way to harness the vitality and power of the sun all year round in a way that is exactly suited to you and your own personal rhythm based on your rising sign. So that is worth a listen for sure if you missed it. And of course, beyond the calendar year, changing every 365 days, the sun also marks your personal solar return, which is when the sun returns to the exact degree and minute it occupied at the moment of your birth. So in astrology, we see your solar return not just as your birthday, but also the beginning of a new personal chapter. It's a fresh cycle of growth, purpose, and who you're becoming. So, your solar return chart each year explores the themes, opportunities, and lessons that are likely to be in focus for you over the 12 months ahead. And if you're curious about that, we created another wonderful episode called Understanding Your Solar Return Chart, which is episode 16. So if you haven't already, be sure to go check that out because we don't go any deeper into this in this episode. And also, both Jody and I offer solar return chart readings as well. So just going to throw that out there. If you don't want to do the work for yourself, we can take a look at your solar return chart for you as well. Okay, so that's the technical stuff about the sun. Now let's get into archetype and meaning. Every civilization throughout history has had some mythological story or representation of the sun. And it's no wonder, right? The sun is absolutely vital to our existence. And it is something that we as humans have always been in deep relationship with in the most experiential of ways. Every morning, darkness gives way to light. Every night, we slip back into the darkness as the sun sinks below the horizon. Every year, cold gives way to warmth. Seeds begin to grow, life begins, and then life fades again as the days become shorter. And every culture eventually recognized that life follows light. Thus, the sun often became one of the central deities across cultures, which makes complete sense. Ancient Egypt had the sun god Ra, giver of life. Ancient Greece had Helios, the divine charioteer who rode across the heavens each day. And then later, Apollo, the illuminating power of truth and wisdom. Ancient Incan civilization had the sun god Inti, who represented abundance, fertility, and protection. In Japan, the sun was actually represented as feminine. The goddess, I'm not going to say this right, I'm sure, but it's Amaterasu, who embodied the sustaining power of life itself. The Celtic peoples, Aztec civilizations, Hindu traditions all had versions of sun gods. Across continents and thousands of years, humanity consistently recognized the sun as a symbol of life, consciousness, vitality, and divine order. The names may have changed, but the archetype remained remarkably consistent. Life follows light. And I think that is one of the deepest metaphors for the sun. Your life follows whatever you give your light to.
And the sun rules the heart. So obviously not our physical heart, but it's more of a symbolic heart. It's our courage, it's our joy, it's our passion. It's the things that really make us come alive. So it's your sun, it's how you shine. So I'll ask my clients sometimes, what really makes you light up? What makes your heart light up? Because that's usually where the sun is asking them to grow. So just something to think about when you're thinking about your sun. And of course, if your sun is your chart ruler, that's a whole another layer.
Definitely. The sun is incredibly potent for that reason. It is very important. And when we're introducing you all to all the different aspects in astrology, I think we tend to focus on everything else because the sun has gotten so much attention with everyone knowing their sun sign, but it doesn't mean it's any less important. And that's why I actually really enjoyed making notes for this episode because I think sometimes the sun kind of even gets overlooked in a way in astrology because it's so well known, but it is a really important part of who we are. Or actually, I have a note about this. Is it who we are or who we're becoming? Because I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that when someone asks, "What's your sign?" what they're really saying is, "What's your sun sign?" And our response is almost always, "I'm a Leo," or "I'm a Pisces," "I'm a Capricorn." We don't say, "My sun sign is Leo," or "My sun
Right.
is in Leo." We say, "I am," as though our entire identity gets reduced to a single placement in the chart, first of all, which we know is not accurate. But your sun sign is important, but every part of your chart contributes to the complexity of who you are. I like to compare it to a symphony. Your birth chart is a
Yeah.
symphony, and but the sun certainly is a lead instrument. We could even call it first chair violin if we wanted to get really nerdy with the analogy. You can tell I was a musician at one point. But the beauty of the symphony is the incredible blending and harmonizing of all the instruments together. But there's actually another reason I brought up the language of saying I am when we talk about the sun sign, because I believe that instead of our sun describing who we are, our sun describes who we are becoming. So this is unlike the moon because the moon represents our instinctive emotional nature from a very young age and carries the signatures of our inner child needs and how they were or were not met. And the sun seems to be what our soul chose to grow into over the course of our lives. I think we are born mostly embodying our moon and our south node. And we did a whole episode about the nodes from an evolutionary astrology perspective. And my belief is that we come in more our south node even than our sun. But we mature into our sun. We spend decades discovering what it really means to embody the highest expression of our sun sign. In that sense, your sun is a lifelong invitation to embody the fullest expression of who you've always had the potential to be. And that doesn't mean that you won't relate to aspects, attributes of your sun sign your whole life, but there's this settling into it as you get older. And I personally have that experience. Like I can look back through my life and see how I am becoming more Sagittarian and embodying the gifts and blessings of that sign and where it is as I get older. What about you, Jody? Do you see that in your life?
I would say I have for sure. I've seen myself grow into my sun sign. But now that I am, I don't want to say older. I don't know how to say that.
You
But
are
I
not
feel
old.
like at this point in my life, what I feel more is my progressed sun. So
Great
it's
point,
kind of
too.
interesting.
Yes, great point, too. And that we have an episode on that as well.
Yeah.
If anyone's
Yeah.
curious about your progressed chart. Yeah, definitely. It does point to how we evolve.
12 years older than you. So I'm at a completely different place in my
Right,
life. But if
right.
I look back in my 30s, I was
Mhm.
definitely living my best Gemini life.
Yes. Yeah. And that progress chart is important to look at too if we are looking at the way in which we evolve. But I do believe that the sun is not something that we just naturally have down pat as if we've lived lifetimes of that. I think it is something that we do mature and grow into and learn to embody. But it is also that thing that really lights us up. And it's our discovery, I think, of our joy. We're discovering throughout our lives what lights us up, what brings us joy, what is our authentic expression from our heart. How do we tap into that and find that? And I think that comes through the sun.
Yeah, I do also think that with your son, to truly feel fulfilled, I think you want to be embracing your sun sign because
Mhm.
if you're trying to be someone you're truly not, if you're someone who is a Virgo and you like to be very disciplined and analytical and structured, and you try to be a carefree Aquarius, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, because the sun rules Leo, and Leo is about heart and self-expression and authenticity and the courage to embrace that instead of conforming to what the world around you, your environment, your parents, your friends, society, whatever it is, tells you you should be, quote unquote. So in that way, I think that is how we mature into our sun is just allowing ourselves to become more fully ourselves and live from our heart and live authentically instead of through our programming or expectations. I think that's such a great way to put that and really
Yeah.
embodies that Leo and sun archetype for sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on another misconception around the sun and the word ego. People often hear astrologers say the sun represents the ego. There's definitely truth to that, for sure. But I also think the word ego has become one of the most misunderstood words in modern spirituality. It seems that people often see the ego as something we need to destroy or transcend in order to become enlightened. And I do not see it that way at all. The ego is an absolutely necessary part of being human. It's what gives us a sense of individuality. It helps us understand I am me and you are you. So without an
Mhm.
ego, we couldn't have a unique perspective or make choices or build relationships or experience this life as an individual soul. Because outside of this three-dimensional earth reality, our soul understands and experiences itself as one with all that is. It understands that it is not actually separate. But this world gives us, and that ego gives us that perspective or the illusion in a way to be able to play act, to be able to experience separation and self. So without the ego, that's not possible. So
Mhm.
it allows consciousness to have a personal experience. So the sun then becomes the organizing center of that consciousness, the center around which our experience of self takes shape. So Where the ego becomes unhealthy, though, is when it forgets that it is just the structure providing the experience and begins believing it's the whole story, right? Because the
Right.
ego's primary job is survival. It's constantly asking us questions like, am I enough? Am I better? Am I worse? Do I belong? Am I safe? And do you see how every one of those questions actually has fear at its root? To me, a healthy ego, on the other hand, becomes secure enough that it no longer needs to compare itself constantly. Instead, it begins asking a very different question, and that is, am I living in alignment with who I came here to become? And perhaps just as importantly, am I lovingly allowing and appreciating others around me for doing the same? We do not all have to become the same thing. We do not all have to conform and fit into a certain box. We can honor and respect others for who they are and also live in alignment with who we are becoming. And so that comparison game really, fear is at its root. And that, I think, is where ego can get us into trouble.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about possible shadow expressions of the sun. So, as we know, every planet has its shadow side, and our solar shadow can show up as pride, arrogance, inflation, selfishness, need for recognition, over identification with achievement, or on the other side, burnout, hiding, shrinking, self doubt, living according to someone else's approval, according to someone else's expectations or definition of success. The truth is, dampening or changing our authentic self expression in order to please others actually dims the light of our sun.
For sure. Yeah. Shining our brightest through our sun is, again, it's neither overinflated or shrinking to fit. It's always good to talk about the possible shadow expressions of each planet.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to
Sorry.
talk about the sun through all the signs. We're going to start with Aries. So, if your sun sign is in Aries, you're learning to become someone who trusts your own instinct. You act with courage and you're not afraid to blaze new trails. Life continually invites you to step into leadership roles, not for power, but because you were born to initiate. So, things that excite you would be new beginnings, meaningful challenges, healthy competition, independence, and the freedom to pursue your passions. Some possible shadow expressions to look for would be impatience, impulsiveness, frustration when life moves slowly, or believing that you always have to prove yourself through action. And the light you shine in the world is courageous, enthusiasm, authenticity, and the ability to inspire others to take that first step towards something new. And the invitation from your soul is to remember that true courage isn't always found in charging ahead. It's also found in patience, vulnerability, and trusting that you don't have to force what is already meant for you.
Okay, if you have your sun in Taurus, you are learning to become someone who creates stability, beauty, and lasting value in your life and those around you. Rather than chasing what is only temporary, over time, you discover that your greatest strength lies in building something of true value with your quiet consistency and unwavering presence. There's a steadiness about you. Things that excite you are nature, beauty, meaningful work, physical comforts, creating something tangible, and relationships built on trust and loyalty. Possible shadow expressions for you would be resistance to change, becoming overly attached to comfort or security, or holding on to what has already outlived its purpose. The light you shine in the world is your groundedness, your reliability, patience, and the ability to help others slow down and appreciate the richness of the present moment. And I love that about you, Taurus. The invitation from your soul is to trust that growth doesn't threaten your stability, it deepens it. So it is okay for change to come in. It's okay for you to evolve and grow. It's not a threat.
If your sun is in Gemini, you're learning to become someone who gathers ideas, asks the meaningful questions, and builds bridges through communication. Your path is one of curiosity, discovery, and helping people see connections they may have otherwise missed. So things that excite you are learning, conversations, books, teaching, writing, travel, meeting new people, and exploring different perspectives. Possible shadow expressions would be scattered focus, information overload, distraction, or staying on the surface out of fear of going deeper. The light you shine in the world is adaptability, intellectual curiosity, humor, and the ability to help others understand themselves and one another. The invitation from your soul is to remember that wisdom isn't found in knowing a little about everything, but in allowing certain truths to take root deep within you. I love that.
Do you feel that as a Gemini?
Yeah. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I also love Geminis. I love them all. I
Yeah.
love all of you out there. Every single iteration of sun sign personality. You're all beautiful.
Yes.
All right. If you have your sun in Cancer, you are learning to become someone who creates belonging, emotional safety, and genuine connection. Your path is one of discovering that true strength often expresses itself through tenderness, compassion, and the courage to love deeply. Things that excite you are family, meaningful relationships, home, nurturing others, tradition, heartfelt conversations, and creating spaces where people feel safe. Possible shadow expressions for you are fear of rejection, emotional withdrawal, overprotectiveness, or allowing the past to determine your future. The light you shine in the world is empathy, compassion, intuition, and the remarkable ability to help others feel seen, loved, and accepted. The invitation from your soul is to remember that you don't have to carry everyone else's emotions in order to be worthy of love.
Sun in Leo. So you're learning to become someone who expresses your authentic self with courage, creativity, and wholehearted joy. Your path is one of discovering that your light was never meant to be hidden. As you embrace who you truly are, you naturally inspire others to do the same. What excites you is creativity, play, heartfelt connection, recognition, feeling seen, self expression, celebration, and opportunities to uplift and inspire others. Possible shadow expressions would be feeling like you need validation from others, fear of being overlooked, pride, or performing for approval rather than expressing your genuine heart. The light you shine in the world. Joy, confidence, generosity, creativity, showing up heart first, and the ability to awaken the unique light within others. The invitation from your soul is to realize that your worth isn't determined by applause. You don't shine because others notice, you shine for the pure joy of being fully yourself.
That is the sign that the sun rules. So it is
Yeah.
very solar oriented
Yes.
for sure. All right. If your sun is in Virgo, you are learning to become someone whose gifts are expressed through refinement, discernment, service, and mastery. Over time, you discover that excellence isn't about perfection. It's about offering your unique gifts with humility, intention, and care. What excites you is learning new skills, improving systems, meaningful service to others, solving problems, creating order, and helping life function more beautifully. Possible shadow expressions for you are perfectionism, self criticism or criticism of others, analysis paralysis, or
Mm.
believing that you must earn your worth through constant productivity. The light you shine in the world is discernment, integrity, practical wisdom, healing, and the ability to transform complexity into clarity. The invitation from your soul is to remember that you don't have to become perfect in order to be worthy. The world needs you to shine your light exactly as you are right now.
Sun in Libra. You're learning to become someone who brings harmony, beauty, and balance into the world through authentic relationships. Your path is discovering that true peace isn't created by avoiding conflict, but by honoring both yourself and others with equal grace and unconditional love. What excites you is meaningful partnerships, beauty, collaboration, diplomacy, art, thoughtful conversations, and creating connection. Possible shadow expressions for Libra would be people pleasing, indecision, avoiding necessary conflict, or sacrificing your authenticity to maintain harmony. The light you shine in the world is grace, fairness, diplomacy, beauty, relational warmth, and the ability to help others find common ground. The invitation from your soul is to remember that authentic harmony begins with being honest with who you are. Learn to honor yourself by speaking your truth from your heart, even when you are afraid about how it will be received.
If your sun is in Scorpio, you are learning to become someone who embraces transformation with courage and depth. Your path continually asks you to release old versions of yourself so that something truer can emerge. Through each ending, you discover a deeper level of authenticity and inner power. What excites you is meaningful intimacy, psychology, mystery, healing, transformation, spiritual exploration, and uncovering hidden truths. Possible shadow expressions for you can be fear of vulnerability, mistrust, control, resentment, or holding on to pain long after it has served its purpose. The light that you shine in the world is your depth, your resilience, emotional honesty, being a model of bravery and transformational healing, and the courage to help others navigate life's darkest passages. The invitation from your soul is to trust that surrender is not weakness. It is often the doorway to your greatest transformation.
Sun in Sagittarius, you are learning to become someone who continually expands your understanding of life through exploration, wisdom, and lived experience. Your journey is one of seeking truth, not as a destination, but as an ever evolving adventure as you piece together meaning from all that you explore. What excites you? Travel, philosophy, spirituality, teaching, adventure, meaningful conversations, freedom, and discovering new perspectives. Possible shadow expression would be restlessness, overconfident, avoiding commitment, or constantly chasing the next horizon instead of appreciating where you are. The light you shine into the world is optimism, vision, inspiration, wisdom, and the ability to help others believe in possibilities they haven't even imagined. The invitation for your soul is to remember that the greatest journey isn't always across the world. It is often in the deepest truth of your own heart. Embrace the perfection of the present moment.
I feel all of that as a Sagittarius.
Yes.
Yeah, staying present and not constantly looking to the future possibilities is definitely a shadow that I struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
All right, if your sun is in Capricorn, you are learning to become someone who builds a life of integrity, wisdom, and lasting contribution. Your path teaches that true success isn't measured only by achievement, but by becoming someone whose character can support the responsibilities you are called to carry. What excites you is meaningful goals, mastery, responsibility, building something enduring, competence, leadership, and seeing steady progress over time. Possible shadow expressions for you would be workaholism, excessive self pressure, fear of failure, shutting down your emotions, or measuring your worth solely by what you accomplish. The light you shine in the world is your discipline, resilience, wisdom, reliability, and the ability to turn vision into reality. You are the builders, that's for sure. The invitation from your soul is to remember that your value has never depended on your productivity. You are worthy long before you achieve anything. And that's a tough one for Capricorns, for sure. But once you understand that in your heart of hearts, it frees you so much. It gives you so
Yeah.
much more peace because you have this constant sort of internal pressure, for sure.
Yeah. Sun in Aquarius, you're learning to become someone who helps humanity evolve through originality, innovation, and authentic individuality. Your path invites you to embrace what makes you different, recognize that your uniqueness is precisely what allows you to contribute something meaningful to the collective. What excites you is innovation, community, humanitarian causes, intellectual exploration, meaningful friendships, progressive ideas, and imagining better futures. Possible shadow expressions: feeling like an outsider, emotional detachment, rebellion for its own sake, or distancing yourself from genuine connection. The light you shine into the world is vision, originality, objectivity, innovation, and the courage to imagine possibilities beyond the status quo. The invitation for your soul is to remember that true belonging isn't found by becoming like everyone else. It's found by fully becoming yourself. And by embracing that authenticity, the world becomes a better place.
And finally, beautiful Pisces. If your sun is in Pisces, you are learning to become someone who lives from compassion, imagination, and spiritual connection. Your path invites you to recognize the sacredness woven through everyday life and to express your gifts in ways that remind others they are never truly separate from one another. What excites you is creativity, spirituality, music, art, meditation, compassion, nature, symbolic thinking, imagination, and meaningful acts of kindness. Possible shadow expressions for you would be escapism, blurred boundaries, self sacrifice, confusion, or losing yourself in the needs and emotions of others. The light you shine in the world is deep compassion, intuition, imagination, healing presence, and the ability to help others reconnect with our hearts, with wonder, and with the sacred. The invitation from your soul is to remember that compassion includes yourself. The more unconditional love you give yourself, the more grounded you become, and the more freely your light can illuminate the world.
All right, now I'm going to go over essential oils by your sun sign's element. I thought it would be fun to pair things by element this time around versus each sign. So for fire signs, which are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, the oil of choice would be wild orange. Fire signs naturally radiate that enthusiasm, creativity, courage, and joy. And wild orange reminds them to embrace play, confidence, and the abundance that comes from simply being themselves. So maybe a reflection question for fire signs would be, what lights me up? You can put your wild orange in a diffuser and then maybe do a little reflective journaling on that question. Next, we have Earth element, which is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The essential oil would be cedarwood. Earth signs shine by creating stability, beauty, and lasting values. And cedarwood encourages grounding, belonging, and remembering that your worth isn't measured by your productivity. So diffuse some cedarwood and maybe reflect on, where do I feel most rooted? Air signs would be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. The essential oil of choice would be spearmint. Air signs express themselves through ideas, learning, and communication. And spearmint supports mental clarity and encourages them to speak their truth with confidence and curiosity. While diffusing some spearmint, you could reflect on the question, what truth is asking to be expressed? And then last but certainly not least, we have our water element, which is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And the essential oil is frankincense. Water signs naturally lead with their intuition, compassion, and emotional depth. And frankincense can help reconnect them to their inner wisdom and trust the quiet voice within. Diffuse some frankincense and journal this reflection question. What is my intuition trying to show me?
I love that essential oil support for our elements. I feel like essential
Yeah.
oils are just such great companions along the path of life.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
we are now going to walk you through the sun through the houses. This one's a little bit shorter than going through the signs. We go a little deeper with that. But this is another important layer in your chart. Where is your sun? So if you have the sun in the first house, you embody your sun sign and shine it brightly for all to see. It is literally in the house of self, of your body. So you're here to become unapologetically yourself, and others often notice your energy before you even say a word. One of your greatest gifts is giving others permission to embrace their own individuality. Your growth edge would be learning that authentic confidence comes from truly knowing yourself, not from having to prove yourself to others.
If your sun is in the second house, you express your sun through building a life rooted in your values, talents, and self worth. You come alive when you're creating stability and using your gifts in a tangible, meaningful way. Your journey is discovering the deep connection between your inner value and the life you build around it. Your growth edge is remembering that your worth isn't measured by what you own or produce.
If your sun is in the third house, learning, teaching, communicating, and sharing ideas are where you shine and express your sun. You're here to ask questions, connect people, and help knowledge come alive through conversation. Your words have the power to illuminate new perspectives for others. Your growth edge is going beyond the endless collecting of information and choosing to trust your knowledge, your wisdom, and your voice.
If your sun is in the fourth house, creating emotional security, belonging, and strong roots wherever you go is where you truly shine. Whether through family, home, ancestry, or inner healing, you're here to build the foundation that allows both you and others to flourish. You may not always express your sun loudly, but your strength comes from knowing where you belong and building a sense of safety in yourself and those closest to you. Your growth edge is creating a sense of home within yourself rather than searching for it outside of you.
If your sun is in the fifth house, the sun is very much at home and happy in the fifth house, and your light shines through your creativity, joy, play, romance, and authentic self expression. And you inspire others to jump in and play right alongside you. You come alive when you're creating and contributing to life rather than just consuming it. The sun is a very creative element, and this fifth house expression definitely has that as well. So, one of your greatest gifts is reminding others that joy is not a distraction from our purpose. Rather, it is essential to life and why we are here. Your growth edge is creating simply because your heart longs to, not because you're seeking applause or recognition.
If your sun is in the sixth house, your light shines through meaningful service, daily practices, health, and continual self improvement. You're here to embody the idea that small, consistent action shapes a meaningful life. Your greatest impact often comes through quiet dedication rather than dramatic moments. Your growth edge is letting go of perfectionism and remembering that progress is more important than perfection.
If your sun is in the seventh house, partnership, collaboration, shared experiences, and learning about yourself through meaningful relationships is where your sun shines most. You discover who you are by meeting others as equals, and your presence naturally helps create harmony and understanding. Relationships become one of your greatest teachers in life. Your growth edge is in honoring your own identity while remaining deeply connected to others. Finding the balance of your own needs with those of others is key for you.
If your sun is in the eighth house, you quite literally shine your light in the darkness in order to discover what is hidden there. Your sun pulls you in the direction of transformation, psychology, healing, intimacy, and life's deepest mysteries. You're drawn towards experiences that strip away illusion and reveal truth. Through every ending and rebirth, you inspire others to find courage in their own transformational experiences. Your growth edge is trusting the vulnerability in others and in the unknown instead of trying to control what feels uncertain.
If your sun is in the ninth house, your sun draws you towards exploration, higher learning, philosophy, spirituality, and expanding your understanding of life. You're here to seek wisdom and inspire others to see beyond the horizon. Your journey reminds people that life is always inviting us to grow. Your growth edge is remaining open to learning rather than becoming attached to believing you found the final answer. Stay curious and open.
If your sun is in the 10th house, your light shines brightest through leadership, vocation, contribution, and the legacy you leave behind. You're here to build something meaningful that reflects your authentic values and serve the world in a lasting way. Others naturally look to you for guidance and direction. Your growth edge is defining success by alignment with your purpose rather than by your status, society's definition of success, or achievement alone.
If your sun is in the 11th house, community, collaboration, innovation, and contributing to something larger than yourself are what excite your sun the most. You naturally inspire groups of people and often feel called to help shape a better future. Your individuality becomes most powerful when it's offered in service to the collective. Your growth edge is staying true to your authentic self instead of sacrificing your individuality to fit in. What your community and the world needs most is for you to be fully yourself.
Fun fact, Mari and I are both 11th house suns.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I love that. And I think much of what we do with the podcast really is trying to be in service to community and to all of you who listen. We care about
Definitely.
you and we want to build something together here for sure.
Yes. Okay, and last but certainly not least, sun in the 12th house. Your sun carries within it incredible compassion, healing gifts, intuition, and imagination. You have a deep connection to spirit in the unseen realms, and your sun shines its light into areas that are foggy for most people. Your greatest gift may not be loud or showy, as they often emerge in quiet spaces where reflection, intuition, and surrender to the unknown allows you to find your own power. Plenty of alone time to journey within is essential for your soul to flourish. You remind others that not all forms of leadership and strength are visible. Your growth edge is trusting that your light doesn't have to be the brightest in the room to be powerful, while also allowing yourself to be seen instead of remaining hidden where you feel safe.
Okay. And then finally, we're going to wrap up the episode with the sun in aspect to the other planets in your chart. And as you know, if you've been listening for a while, this is a very important part of your chart and really is what makes your planets so personal to you because they are in conversation with the other planets in your chart in very unique ways. And we have talked about aspects before on the podcast many times, but I'm just going to hit on a quick refresher. When two planets are in aspect in your chart, it means those two archetypes are in relationship with one another. They're constantly interacting, influencing, and shaping one another throughout your life. As we talk about the aspects, you will hear us discuss three different types. I broke it down this time between three different categories just to make it a little clearer. So, we're going to talk about conjunctions, tension aspects, and harmonious aspects. So, conjunctions blend the two planets together so they act nearly as if they were one thing. Harmonious aspects often describe qualities that come naturally to us. They flow with relative ease, so much so, actually, that we may not even recognize them as gifts because they've always felt effortless. So, examples of these as major aspects would be trines or sextiles. There are minor aspects you can look into as well. We've done episodes fully on aspects too. Check those out if you're interested. And we did an episode that includes the minor aspects. Tension aspects, on the other hand, describe places where two parts of ourselves are learning to work together. While these aspects can feel challenging, they're often the very places where we experience our greatest growth, maturity, and self awareness. The major tension aspects would be squares or oppositions, and there are minors as well. So you can go deeper into that if you want to. Basically, harmonious aspects often reveal our gifts. Tension aspects often reveal our greatest opportunities for evolution. But every aspect is ultimately inviting you towards the same thing, becoming a more integrated, authentic expression of who you came here to be, especially with the sun. Every aspect to your sun is very important about who you are, how you express. In this way, there really are no good or bad aspects in the chart. We really emphasize that the tension ones are not bad and the harmonious ones are not good, quote unquote. If aspects confuse you, like I said, go into our deep dive on the aspects, but we are going to break it down in connection with each of the other planets.
Okay, we're going to start with the sun and the moon. So if your sun and moon are in aspect, your identity and your emotional world are in a constant conversation. The moon amplifies your emotions naturally within your sun's expression, making your feelings an important part of how you experience yourself. If your sun and moon are in conjunction, your identity and emotions become deeply intertwined. Who you are and how you feel are difficult for you to separate, often creating someone who lives authentically from the heart and experiences life with emotional sincerity. If your sun and moon form a tension aspect, you may sometimes feel like your outer life and your inner life are pulling in different directions. What your soul is asking you to become may not always align with what feels emotionally comfortable. Over time, the aspect teaches you to honor both your purpose and your emotional needs rather than sacrificing one for the other. And if your sun and moon form a harmonious aspect, your identity and emotional world naturally support one another. There's often an inner congruence between who you are and how you feel, allowing you to move through life with a strong sense of authenticity and emotional balance.
If the sun and Mercury are in aspect in your chart, your identity and your mind are closely connected. Mercury amplifies communication, learning, and thinking within your sun's expression. So, if you have a conjunction with Sun and Mercury, your thoughts become one of the primary ways you express who you are. Your identity and your voice are closely intertwined, making communication an important part of your life's purpose. If you have a tension aspect between Sun and Mercury, you may struggle with overthinking, second guessing your decisions, or feeling misunderstood. Over time, this teaches you to trust your own voice rather than constantly seeking certainty. If you have a harmonious aspect between Mercury and the Sun, your thoughts and identity naturally work together. You often communicate with clarity, confidence, and authenticity, helping others understand both your ideas and themselves.
All right, if your sun and Venus are an aspect, your identity naturally intertwines with your values, relationships, creativity, and appreciation of beauty. Venus softens your sun's expression, encouraging warmth, harmony, and connection. So, if your sun and Venus are conjunct, your identity naturally expresses itself through Venusian qualities. Beauty, love, art, diplomacy, and relationships become central parts of who you are. Tension aspects, you may wrestle with balancing authenticity and approval. There can be a tendency to define your worth through relationships or to compromise yourself in order to keep the peace. This aspect teaches that genuine love begins with being true to yourself. If there's a harmonious aspect between your Sun and Venus, then love, creativity, and connection flow naturally through your personality. You have an effortless ability to make others feel appreciated, seen, and valued.
If the Sun and Mars are an aspect, your identity and your drive are working together. Mars amplifies courage, initiative, motivation, and the desire to take action. If they are in conjunction in your chart, your identity and your drive become inseparable. You naturally move toward life with courage, passion, and determination, often preferring action over hesitation. This also often gives you a lot more physical energy and vitality. So, moving your body is important for you to move that Mars energy through your sun. If there's a tension aspect between Sun and Mars, you may struggle with impatience, frustration, anger, or feeling like you constantly have to prove yourself. This aspect teaches conscious action rather than reactive action, helping you discover true strength through self mastery. And if you have a harmonious aspect between Sun and Mars, your confidence, initiative, and motivation tend to flow naturally. You trust yourself to take action and often inspire others simply by courageously living your life.
All right, on to Sun and Jupiter. So, if your Sun and Jupiter are an aspect, your identity is expanded by optimism, wisdom, faith, and the desire to grow. If your Sun and Jupiter have a conjunction, your personality naturally expresses itself with enthusiasm, generosity, curiosity, and the desire to continually expand your horizons. If you have a tension aspect between the Sun and Jupiter, you may overextend yourself, overpromise, or struggle with unrealistic expectations. This aspect teaches discernment and reminds you that true abundance also requires balance. If you have a harmonious aspect between the Sun and Jupiter, optimism, generosity, wisdom, and inspiration flow naturally through you. Others often experience you as encouraging, helpful, and uplifting.
If the sun and Saturn are in aspect in your chart, your identity is shaped through responsibility, discipline, and maturity. Saturn asks your sun to grow stronger over time. If they're in conjunction, responsibility becomes deeply woven into your identity. You often mature quickly and may feel called to carry significant responsibilities throughout your life. Often, conjunction, certainly between the sun and Saturn, or really honestly, any of the aspects between Sun and Saturn lend towards kind of an old soul energy from a young age. If there's a tension aspect, self doubt, fear of failure, or feeling like you must earn your worth can become reoccurring themes in your life. This aspect ultimately teaches that true confidence is built through integrity, perseverance, and self acceptance. If you have a harmonious aspect between Saturn and your sun, discipline, wisdom, and resilience become natural strengths. You possess a quiet confidence built on experience, responsibility, and character.
All right, now Sun and Uranus. So if your Sun and Uranus are in aspect, your identity is amplified by originality, independence, and the desire for authenticity. If your Sun and Uranus are conjunct, your individuality becomes one of your defining characteristics. You're often drawn towards innovation, unconventional paths, and living life on your own terms. If you have a tension aspect between the Sun and Uranus, you may feel torn between fitting in and honoring your uniqueness. This aspect encourages you to stop rebelling for rebellion's sake and instead become authentically yourself. If you have a harmonious aspect between the Sun and Uranus, innovation, originality, and authentic self expression flow naturally. You often inspire others simply by giving yourself permission to be different.
If the sun and Neptune are in aspect, your identity becomes infused with imagination, spirituality, compassion, and intuition. If there is a conjunction between these two, your sense of self naturally blends with Neptune's mystical qualities. You're often deeply imaginative, compassionate, intuitive, and drawn towards spiritual exploration or artistic expression. There can often be a psychic gifting with this as well, a heightened psychic gifting. If there is a tension aspect, you may experience confusion around your identity, idealization, escapism, or difficulty maintaining healthy boundaries. This aspect teaches discernment while helping you discover a spirituality that is both inspired and grounded. If there's a harmonious aspect between Neptune and the sun, compassion, intuition, creativity, and spiritual insight flow naturally through your personality. You often help others reconnect with meaning, beauty, and hope.
On to aspects with Sun and Pluto. So if your Sun and Pluto are an aspect, your identity is continually transformed through profound experiences of growth, healing, and rebirth. If your Sun and Pluto have a conjunction, transformation becomes central to your identity. You rarely remain the same person for long, continually shedding old versions of yourself, so something more authentic can emerge. If you have a tension aspect between your Sun and Pluto, power struggles, control issues, fear of vulnerability, or clinging to outdated identities can arise. This aspect ultimately teaches that true power comes from surrender, honesty, and continual transformation. And then harmonious aspects between the Sun and Pluto, resilience, authenticity, depth, and personal power flow naturally. You possess an extraordinary ability to help both yourself and others navigate life's greatest transformations.
And finally, the sun and Chiron. I always like to include Chiron. It is an asteroid, but we as humans all have wounds, and they are some of our greatest places for transformation. Speaking of Pluto's transformation. And I think the Chiron placement speaks a lot to those areas for us and is important in the chart. I always include it even in a natal reading. So if your sun and Chiron are an aspect, your identity becomes deeply connected to the themes of healing, vulnerability, and discovering your worth beyond your wounds. If there's a conjunction, your life's journey often revolves around healing questions of identity, confidence, visibility, or belonging. Over time, these experiences become the very source of your wisdom and compassion. If there's a tension aspect between Sun and Chiron, you may fear being truly seen or feel like you're somehow not enough. Yet, this tension becomes one of your greatest teachers, inviting you to discover that your wounds don't diminish your light. They become part of what makes it so meaningful. And if there's a harmonious aspect between Sun and Chiron, healing, authenticity, and compassion naturally become part of your identity. Your willingness to embrace your own humanity often gives others permission to do the same. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And that was all we had for you today on the sun. Do you have anything you want to wrap up with, Jody?
I just want to thank everybody for joining and listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, please share it to help us continue to grow.
Yes, go out there and shine your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us under the stars today. We hope you're leaving feeling inspired, grounded, and more connected to your inner truth.
And if you loved this episode, we would be so grateful if you would subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone you love.
If you're ready to explore your soul's path through psychological, evolutionary astrology, and personal astrological coaching, you can find Mari at yoursoulpurposeastrology.com or follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Your Soul Purpose Astrology.
And if you're ready to illuminate your birth chart and explore how essential oils can support your emotional and energetic alignment, you can find Jody at earthandskyessentials.com or at Earth and Sky Essentials on Facebook and Instagram.
And remember, your soul is always guiding you.
The magic starts within.